In the late 18th century, the French colony of Saint-Domingue was the envy of the imperial world. They called it the Pearl of the Antilles. It was an economic miracle, producing 40% of all the sugar and 60% of all the coffee consumed in Europe. The wealth flowing from these ports built the grand palaces of France and fueled the global economy. But this paradise was a veneer. Beneath the golden sugarcane fields lay a graveyard. This unimaginable wealth was extracted from the blood and sweat of 500,000 enslaved Africans, whose life expectancy upon arrival was often less than 7 years. It was the most profitable colony on earth, and arguably the most brutal. The Society of Saint-Domingue was a powder keg waiting for a spark. At the top were the Grand Blancs, the wealthy plantation owners. Below them, the Petits Blancs, poor whites filled with resentment. Then the gens de couleur libre, free people of color, some of whom were wealthy slave owners themselves, but denied political rights. And at the bottom, the silent majority, 500,000 enslaved people, outnumbering their masters 10 to 1. When news of the French Revolution reached the island in 1789, with its cries of liberty, equality, fraternity, the island's rigid caste system began to crack. Everyone wanted freedom for themselves, but few intended to share it. The spark finally ignited on a stormy night, August 14, 1791. In a forest clearing known as Bois Caïman, hundreds of enslaved leaders gathered for a secret voodoo ceremony. Led by the Hungan Duti Boukman and the Mambo Cecile Fatiman, they sacrificed a black pig and swore a sacred blood oath. Boukman's voice rose above the thunder. The God of the white man asks for crime, but our God asks for vengeance. Listen to the voice of liberty that speaks in all our hearts. That night, they pledged to live free or die trying. 1 week later, the signal was given. On August 22nd, the northern plain exploded. Within days, 1,000 sugar and coffee plantations were reduced to ash. The sky turned black with smoke, visible for miles out at sea. The masters, who had slept with pistols under their pillows for years, fled in terror. It was not just a riot, it was a coordinated, massive uprising. The Pearl of the Antilles was burning, and the world watched in horror as the impossible began to unfold. From the chaos emerged a leader of singular genius, Toussaint Louverture. A former livestock steward who had been free for over a decade, Toussaint was literate, disciplined, and a brilliant strategist. He molded the disorganized rebel bands into a professional army. Known as the Black Napoleon, he possessed an uncanny ability to read the geopolitical chessboard. He didn't just fight, he maneuvered, knowing when to strike and when to negotiate. Under his command, the insurrection became a revolution. Saint-Domingue became a battleground for empires. Seeing an opportunity to cripple France, both Britain and Spain invaded the colony. Toussaint played them against each other, initially fighting for Spain. But in 1794, the desperate French Republic made a historic decree, the abolition of slavery. Toussaint immediately switched sides, joining the French to drive out the Spanish and Britain. The European powers sent thousands of troops, but they were defeated by Toussaint's guerrilla tactics and the deadly yellow fever. By 1798, Toussaint was the master of the island. By 1801, Toussaint had drafted a constitution for Saint-Domingue, appointing himself governor-general for life. He rebuilt the economy, inviting planters back to work with paid labor, and declared that slavery is forever abolished. But across the ocean, Napoleon Bonaparte had seized power in France. He saw Toussaint's autonomy as an insult and the loss of the colony's wealth as unacceptable. Napoleon famously declared, "I will not leave an epaulette on the shoulder of these Negroes." He prepared a massive invasion force to retake the island. In February 1802, Napoleon's brother-in-law, General Leclerc, arrived with over 20,000 veteran troops, the largest expeditionary force France had ever sent overseas. Their secret orders were to restore slavery. Realizing the French intent, the Haitian generals adopted a scorched earth policy. "Burn the cities, poison the wells," they ordered.
When the French landed at Le Cap, they found nothing but ashes. The war for liberty had turned into a war for survival. Unable to defeat Toussaint on the battlefield, the French resorted to treachery. They invited him to a parley to discuss peace. It was a trap. Toussaint was arrested and shipped to France. As he boarded the ship, he uttered his famous prophecy: "In overthrowing me, you have cut only the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will spring up again, for the roots are numerous and deep." He died alone in a freezing cell in the Jura Mountains less than a year later. But the roots remained. With Toussaint gone, the brutal Jean-Jacques Dessalines took command. The war descended into absolute savagery. The French general Rochambeau imported man-eating dogs to hunt rebels and drowned prisoners by the hundreds. Dessalines responded with the slogan, "Poupée tête, boulet caille," cut heads, burn houses. It was no longer a war for political autonomy. It was a war of extermination. The indigenous army, fueled by the certainty that defeat meant re-enslavement, fought with terrifying ferocity. The final showdown came on November 18th, 1803, the Battle of Vertières. The rebels stormed the French fortifications near Le Cap. General François Capoisman, known as Capois la Mort, led charge after charge. Even when his horse was shot from under him and a bullet grazed his hat, he rose, drew his sword, and screamed, "Forward!" The French were so awestruck by his bravery that they briefly ceased fire to applaud him. By sunset, the French army was broken. Napoleon's dream of a Western Empire died on that hill. On January 1st, 1804, in the city of Gonieves, Jean-Jacques Dessalines declared the colony independent. To erase the memory of the colonizer, he restored the indigenous Taino name for the island, Haiti, land of high mountains. It was the first black republic in the world and the only nation ever established as the result of a successful slave revolt. In his proclamation, Dessalines declared, "We have dared to be free. Let us be thus by ourselves and for ourselves." The victory was miraculous, but the cost was high. Fearing the spread of rebellion, the world powers, France, Britain, Spain, and the United States, isolated the new nation. France later demanded a crippling indemnity that bankrupted Haiti for over a century. Yet the Haitian Revolution remains a beacon of human history. It shattered the myth of white supremacy and proved that liberty is not a gift given by masters, but a right seized by the people. Haiti stood alone so that others could stand free.